Less than a week after a motorcycle gang shootout in Waco, Texas, the Bandidos are in New Mexico.
9 people were killed in that rampage. Now all eyes are on northern New Mexico.
A smash-on-sight order. Kill on sight. No questions asked. That's what national leadership of the Bandidos Motorcycle Gang commanded their Houston members in 2019. What followed turned America's 4th largest city into a war zone. Bars became battlegrounds. Public roads witnessed executions. Innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. By the time federal agents moved in, 2 people were dead. 3 more barely survived assassination attempts, and 14 men faced charges that could put them away for life. This is the story of how Houston's streets became a battlefield in a biker gang war that federal prosecutors are calling one of the most violent turf conflicts in recent American history. Before we dive into the carnage that unfolded, you need to understand what sparked this war, because this wasn't random violence. This was calculated, organized. And it all started when one group dared to break free from the Bandidos' iron grip. The Bandidos Motorcycle Club was founded by Houston dockworker Donald Eugene Chambers on March 4, 1966. What began in Texas spread worldwide with chapters throughout Europe, Asia, and starting in Mexico. With an estimated 1,500 to 2,000 members across the United States alone, the Bandidos became one of the big 4 outlaw motorcycle gangs in America. But Houston was their home turf. Their mother chapter operated from this city, and they weren't about to let anyone challenge their dominance. Federal authorities said the Bandidos sought to exert a monopoly on motorcycle clubs and gangs in the Houston area, which could only operate with their blessing and permission. Any club that wanted to ride in Houston needed Bandidos' approval. Break that rule, and you'd face consequences. That's exactly what happened with the Brothers East Motorcycle Club, known as B*East. They started as a Bandidos support group, but they wanted independence. They wanted to operate on their own terms. When they separated from the Bandidos, they signed their own death warrant. The Katy-based chapter was founded in 2021 specifically to target its rivals, particularly the Brothers East Motorcycle Club. They called it the Welcome to Hell chapter. And that name wasn't marketing, it was a promise. John Pfeffer was the president of the Bandidos Welcome to Hell chapter, a former Navy veteran who served on the USS Princeton from 2011 to 2015. Pfeffer would become the face of the violence that followed. But he wasn't working alone. The indictment alleges that a violent turf war between the groups erupted in 2019. And when it erupted, it didn't stay contained to back alleys or isolated locations. This war spilled onto Houston's public streets, into packed bars, restaurants, and motorcycle dealerships, where regular citizens were just trying to enjoy their evening. The first major strike happened on September 26, 2020, at the Hawg Stop Bar and Grill in Northeast Harris County. Adam Burns was fatally shot while being attacked by a group of 6 Bandidos. The charges stem from an altercation between a group of Bandidos and 3 men they considered rivals at the Hawg Stop Bar and Grill. Burns was shot 6 times, 5 bullets hitting him in the back. He died in the parking lot while other patrons watched in horror, but the violence was just getting started. In November 2021, Michael Zimbrich, a 26-year-old Beast member, was fatally shot after an SUV pulled up alongside him on an Interstate 10-feeder road. Fellow Beast bikers, Demarius Moore and Kevin Cicero, were also shot, but survived their injuries. David Vargas is charged with murder in aid of racketeering and using a firearm during and in relation to a crime of violence resulting in death. This wasn't a bar fight that got out of hand. This was a planned execution on a public highway. Houston police arrested Vargas shortly after the shooting, but the state case fell apart when a witness went missing. The federal government would later step in with far more serious charges. The Bandidos didn't limit their attacks to B's East. They enforced their monopoly against anyone who didn't show proper respect. On the night of February 23, 2023, at least 14 members of the Greybeard Motorcycle Club attended a meeting at Bimbo's Bar and Grill near Tomball. What should have been a peaceful gathering turned violent when Bandidos members attacked them. Taking a jacket from a member of a motorcycle club is viewed as the ultimate sign of disrespect. The Bandidos didn't just assault the Greybeards, they robbed them of their cuts. their vests bearing their club patches. It was humiliation on top of violence. In the days after the altercation with the Greybeards, the Bandidos circulated a picture showcasing the cuts they had stolen. They were bragging about it, flaunting their dominance, sending a message to anyone who might challenge them. Then came one of the most brazen attacks. In June 2023, two local Bandidos members, Darby Hinojosa and John Splendorio, allegedly shot a member of the B East group 7 times in an attempt to kill him. John Splendorio was in the driver's seat of the Ford F-150 that opened fire on the man. The victim had just left a bar in Pasadena when a truck pulled alongside him and opened fire. 7 bullets. He survived, but barely. The violence continued escalating. Brandon Luntz is accused of igniting a blaze at the County Line Ice House in Montgomery County in December 2023, which destroyed the bar. The ice house was closed at the time of the fire, and while there were no reported injuries, the fire destroyed the building, and the business has been permanently closed. Arson. Complete destruction of a business. And for what? Territory, control, power. The alleged assaults and shootings occurred in public areas, including bars, restaurants, a motorcycle dealership, and public roads. Innocent people, innocent motorists, could have been injured or killed by the actions alleged in this indictment. Federal authorities had been watching, building their case, conducting surveillance, gathering evidence. For 6 years, they investigated, waiting for the right moment to strike. On February 11th, a federal grand jury returned a 22-count indictment against 14 members and associates of the Bandidos. Charges outlined in the indictment include racketeering, assault, robbery, arson, and murder. These weren't just assault charges. Charges in the indictment fall under the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, a 1970 provision aimed at eliminating organized crime organizations. The charges represent the first filed under the act within the Southern District of Texas in more than 12 years. If convicted, David Vargas faces a mandatory penalty of life in prison or the death penalty. Esplendorio and Hinojosa each face a maximum penalty of life in prison. These men weren't facing slaps on the wrist. They were staring down the rest of their lives behind bars. Doug Williams, the special agent in charge of the FBI's Houston field office, said, "Make no mistake, members of this Bandidos chapter are not the glamorized characters you've seen on TV shows and in movies. These are vicious, violent men who regularly put innocent people in life-threatening situations to further a senseless turf war." U.S. Attorney Nicholas Ganjay said, "This superseding indictment alleges that the charged defendants engaged in a course of criminal conduct in connection with and for the benefit of the Bandidos organization. What makes this case particularly significant is who these men were in their daily lives. Marcel Lett, a decorated former Marine who was deployed overseas at least 10 times, worked as a junior ROTC instructor. Michael Dunphy served as a national sergeant at arms, making him the highest-ranking Bandido in the Houston area. John Pfeffer served in the Navy from 2011 to 2015. These weren't just stereotypical outlaws. Some had served their country. Others held regular jobs. They lived in suburban neighborhoods. They looked like everyday citizens. But beneath that surface, they participated in a criminal organization that terrorized Houston for years. Antoinette T. Bacon of the Justice Department's Criminal Division said, "The Bandidos declare war on rivals, and they wage that war on our streets. Criminal behavior like this has no place in America." The investigation involved multiple agencies working together. The FBI, Texas Board of Criminal Justice Office of Inspector General, Texas Department of Public Safety, and Montgomery County Sheriff's Office conducted the investigation. 6 years of coordination, thousands of hours of surveillance, building an airtight case that would finally bring these men to justice. As of the indictment announcement, 10 of the 14 defendants had been arrested. Some were granted bail under strict conditions. Others remain in custody, deemed too dangerous to release. Conclusion. This case sends a clear message. The days of outlaw motorcycle gangs operating with impunity are over. FBI Special Agent Doug Williams said, "You can't outsmart us, you can't outrun us, and you're certainly not untouchable." Houston streets are safer today because of this investigation. But the trial is just beginning. These 14 men now face the full weight of the federal justice system, and if convicted, some will never see freedom again. The Bandidos turf war in Houston proves that organized crime isn't just something from movies or history books. It's happening right now in major American cities, endangering innocent people who just want to enjoy a night out or drive home safely. The question isn't whether these gangs exist. The question is what we're willing to do to stop them.